Well, hi everybody. This is Purpose People, episode 2. We thought we'd take some time to speak to some of our team because some of our team have been involved in some exciting projects, and really being part of our team means you are purpose-led. And so I'd just like to introduce Nathan Logan,
Hello.
otherwise known as the Loganator.
Oh yeah. I'll be back.
So, Nathan, I mean, do you just want to just tell us a little bit of background for your journey before joining Creation, and then some of the stuff that you've been involved with while you're working for Creation?
Sure. So I've been on quite a varied career journey, really. I trained as an artist, so I did a fine art degree, and then I did a printmaking master's. So it's a form of printmaking, and then I kind of went into a complete change because I loved working with people. So I went into the care industry for a while and worked with special needs, and I worked with kind of challenging behavior and mental health in that whole sector. So I was there for about 10 years and kind of just became like a manager of a unit for kind of forensic mental health, which was quite interesting. So worked in some challenging environments. And then worked for charity for a while and church ministry for a while, for 5 years. And then I kind of took a time out to pursue a dream, which was to be a freelance artist.
Okay, and what when you say freelance artist, what's different between that and the paintings and stuff that you were doing before? So
this was mainly kind of using a lot of digital media. So working in my I'm a slight geek at heart, so I love the fantasy genre and science fiction. So it was actually focusing on the things that I love, which was being a concept artist, which is providing concepts for movies and games, and building worlds. That's what I love to do. I love to build worlds, imaginary worlds.
Okay, well, so sort of like using Unreal Engine, that sort of stuff?
Yeah. A lot of kind of software, like that 3D software. And also using painting skills and illustrational skills on top as well. So it's kind of using everything I've learned over a 10-20 year period all kind of coming together. And just started to create a portfolio of work and network and start to reach out and see how my work went. But I actually it happened during pandemic, so was working remote at home in my home studio excuse me, and realized that I love working with people.
Right, so isolation you kind of struggled with?
In some respects. In some respects, I love that time out to focus on my own, but I also I love to work with people. I love to kind of, swap ideas and kind of inspire and kind of, you work off your kind of your colleagues. So I miss that kind of office banter and that kind of egging each other on.
Yeah, well, I know you into Newcastle Football Club.
Yeah.
And
just getting better at the minute.
Yeah, obviously. Bit of sports washing going on there.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I mean, having known you love being around people and you love to have a laugh and a joke and stuff. And I think, being on your own, working on the project makes sense. But with no people, I guess it's...
Yeah, it got quite tough. And you don't realise, I think probably a lot of people realised over that 2-year period that it can have a detrimental effect on your mental health, being isolated all the time. You don't even realize it's quite subtle. But you can become quite depressed, and I think I especially work well with interaction, and I think my work improves with interaction, especially with other creatives. Being around other creatives is quite important.
Yeah, I remember like a network that I was part of, because it was all face to face, and they had to make a big decision about flipping online. And they turned it onto an online environment, and I'll be honest with you, it was lifesavers, a bit dramatic, but it was an outlet to talk to other people and around people. So during the pandemic, anything they did like that, I made sure I was part of it, because it was you had the opportunity to be social again. And I know it's not the same as in real life, but it made a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you've made a decision. Obviously, you're doing your 3D art and stuff like that, and then in the middle of the pandemic, you're on your own, and then you're doing what you're doing. And then we had a conversation, didn't we? We got together, and do you want to share a little bit about that conversation?
Yeah. So my work wasn't doing as well as I would have liked, and so I kind of. And even still, like I said, I was missing working with people and interacting with people, and I'd already worked with Creation, which was one of the companies that for a number of years.
Yeah.
So I knew the team, and I just really felt that I needed to kind of approach Darrell, and you know, and I took him out for something to eat to kind of butter him up a little bit. And we just kind of sitting over Chinese, and I was just kind of saying, you know, I really feel that I'd love to be a part of things again. Is there any room for me on the team? And graciously said, and that was about 1.5 years ago now. So it's great to be back in the team and to be, but I've noticed a big change, especially with the company from when I worked.
It was part of the charity setup at the time.
So it was part of a charity setup, and this was about 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
But now, just even with the kind of clients that we network with and work with, there's been a big change, and definitely our emphasis and our purpose as a company and a business has changed, and our aims and our goals they were a lot different, and I was pleasantly surprised when I came back, and there's a real feeling of that what we do isn't just to earn cash. It isn't just to find the next big payday. Our clients really value what we do, and we. So, for instance, we did a brand for a client at the end of last year, and watching their response when they saw what we'd actually produced for them at the end, they were reduced to tears in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah. Well, when she burst into tears, I thought we'd utterly failed. but then they were actually just tears of emotion and how great a job we'd done, and that was the best feeling in the world. I can honestly say it's one of the greatest highs I've experienced, kind of as professionally, and we genuinely want to do that again and again and again, because that
make people cry.
Yeah, which we do. But generally, to see somebody's response like that was made all of the effort, because we did go above and beyond.
Yeah.
With that specific project, and to see her response really made it worthwhile, and that transcends any kind of big payday, which is also important, which is also great. But
I think the journey that you've been on, I was working on a lot of projects, were like laying the foundation for what was coming up ahead. You mentioned 3D art and animation and that sort of stuff, and the project you're talking about it was a piece of 3D, and it was animation, and it was using those skills to bring it together. And then I remember when we were originally talking, he said, well, two things I really want to do is get more involved in 3D and animation and stuff, and the other one was writing music. And obviously, we didn't have loads of people knocking on the door for Creation to write music, although we got a lot of musos. Yourself, George. I even used to play drums badly. And the point of it is that there's skills that lay dormant. And I think what I've been most excited about is that you've now managed to get a platform to express those other gifts that you have. So that you made someone cry with your sort of like amazing animation and stuff. But tell us a little bit more about soundtracks, because that's a really, really interesting journey that you went on there.
So out the blue, really. Probably 2 months ago, you approached us saying that there's a really cool wildlife photographer, quite well known, guy called Harry Skeggs. You might have heard of him. And he approached his team, who were filming him for a documentary that they were creating, where he visits Antarctica on one of his worldwide trips, and he wanted the whole thing documented.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were looking for an original score to be created for the documentary and for the footage, and you actually. When they were saying, do you know anybody? Well, you said, well, we can actually produce that, so we actually got over the next three weeks to a month to create an original score for about a half an hour documentary of Harry visiting Antarctica. It was a documentary called Dare to Hope. It's actually on YouTube and on Nikon's website, on their YouTube site. Sorry, this half an hour footage we got to create a whole unique score for, which was absolutely fantastic.
A friend of mine, Andy Patson-Jones of Film Duo, had approached me, and he said his conundrum, because they'd invested a lot of time, effort and stuff, and there were budget constraints, and so he approached us about the music, because with all due respect, a lot of the stock stuff, you've gone all to that effort to film it, and it's ruined by terrible stock music. And he just asked me, do I know anyone? And instantly thought of yourself, and instantly thought of George. And, the both of you did an absolutely incredible job. I mean, you moved your home studio into Creation Studios, and we got a music corner now. And it was incredible because those gifts that lay dormant now had a platform. And I think if you watch the documentary, you'll see how good that soundtrack actually is. And I'm not saying the visuals are phenomenal and the narrative is a great story. But it's amazing how that glue of that soundtrack brings the whole thing to life. And that we've watched Inception and films like that. The soundtrack's just as much a part of that as the actual film itself.
Good old Hans, absolutely.
So how just because obviously not everyone's aware that you can create your own music and licenses and stuff, but just talk us through the process. How did you come up with something that's so original? How does it happen? How do you get to that point?
So it started off, so they sent us some of the footage that they wanted to include. It was kind of a montage of what was going to be the whole documentary, which was really helpful, so we could see the highs and the lows of what Harry went through, because when he went, you saw the pressure that he was under to produce. So he had 3 weeks on this boat journey around Antarctica. I think it was Georgia. And he had to produce. So he's, this whole thing was sponsored and funded by Nikon, and as well as other things. It's not cheap to get out there, so there was a lot of pressure on him to produce, and you saw the tension throughout the journey until he got that amazing shot. And I highly recommend watching the documentary, because you can see the tension and the struggles that he's going through. And then he just sees the perfect shot one evening, looking off the side of the boat, and he runs and gets his camera, and he clicks this amazing iceberg with this colony of penguins on it, and it's just the most amazing shot. And it was just really random on the journey, but that really kick-started his journey, and so we wanted to reflect that in the music and in the score. So we kind of went away and I just found something that I'd actually had, funnily enough, kind of around in my head, a melody. So I just kind of formulated it and kind of solidified this melody on the piano, and then brought it back. And as you said, George, who's also a fantastic musician as well. We've known each other for quite a long time. We just took that lyrical motif and that melody, and we created this score around it. So once you've got your theme, you can really, it's a lot easier to build it around. So it was a relatively quick process. Which was really good because we only had a 3-week window really to produce the whole score. But we ended up producing 9 distinctive tracks for this score, which was the first time we've really scored a whole piece of footage, which was fantastic. So I found it was really successful. We worked well together, and George is very good arranger of the music, and I was really excited when I first spoke to Andy, because obviously you got some of the rough cuts and then you got the thing, and he just said the whole thing's just come to life. Which is his words to me, and there is so much to be added when you create something original to match the footage, that it's almost, you've created the music for the moment, rather than like, what can I drag in and drop. And for me, that the same attention to detail with the actual shots, the actual story, the script writing, you could see that effort was in the actual soundtrack. And the editing reflects the various different moments in the movie. It's like a crafted piece of work rather than a put together. It's like it's been crafted, which
difference from IKEA to buying some handcrafted furniture.
Yeah, that's it.
And absolutely, you can put together a lack table.
There
are other establishments out there you could buy furniture from. Or you can go to an antique store and find something handcrafted. And for me, once I heard it, and I think that's where Andy was and Jerry was and the team, it didn't leave your head. It was like you were going about your everyday, and that motif was playing.
And that was a great sign, because that doesn't necessarily mean that something's a success, but watching people whistling it around the office who'd been hearing us producing it was good, because I wanted it to be stuck in people's heads. But you can get Mr. Blobby's Christmas specials stuck in your head as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's brilliant, but I think it did work really well, and it was a memorable kind of lyrical motif which people could hear. So
it was me when I was like reflecting, so like driving from an event and then I've got that headspace where I might not got the radio on, and that motif just comes back. For me, I knew we were onto something, and one of the things that Andy said to me, Harry said when I spoke to Harry, he said he was there with his wife and he put the track on, and the minute they heard it, it was like, this is it. They said this is what this needed, and not to say that everything else, like Sam done an amazing job in terms of the video shoot and the editing and stuff, but you turn the sound down on the best looking movie, there's something missing. The minute you turn it up and you get the atmospheric, we talk about Hans Zimmer, don't we? When you hear a Hans Zimmer soundtrack or see a trailer, it's very different from everything else. And if we can get anywhere near that, that'd be amazing.
Oh, amazing, yeah.
But music is powerful, and I think just by the association of the gravity of the story as well, about climate and that sort of stuff, and no matter what your view on it, we need to be good stewards. And for me, it's a case of how do you, if you've got a soundtrack that's memorable and it's shot well and the story's well, absolutely, it's engaging. And go to Nikon's website, literally click it in. It's called Dare to Hope. You can watch it, and it's worth sharing. Harry's a phenomenal photographer. What sets him apart, I guess, is that Harry doesn't interrupt the animals. There's a couple of shots in there. Can you tell us that story?
I mean, if you watch the documentary, he's very, very careful to not upset the animals. And he, in fact, leaves one area because he felt that the wildlife was becoming quite skittish. Bear in mind, he's under a lot of pressure to produce. So he's more concerned about the welfare of the animals that he's shooting, and that's the message through the whole documentary, is that he wants to protect this amazing environment. And it's a very, when he begins, he thinks at the beginning of the journey it's going to be a very desolate message, but once he sees the environment and sees that there's so much hope because the wildlife's thriving there, it's magical landscape which is untouched. He's very hopeful that we can actually change things, that we can actually preserve and restore almost this fantastic environment. And yeah, that's reflected in everything in the documentary, how he talks, how he speaks. Sam's footage is brilliant, how Sam films this fantastic landscape. It literally is, every shot is almost like a painted landscape. It's like a picturesque postcard. It's beautiful. So it was relatively easy to produce music for such an amazing kind of visual landscape. So yeah, I think the message of hope comes through everything: the music, the footage, how Harry speaks about it.
Yeah, because I mean, there's aspects in the video where he goes back to the whaling communities, obviously all gone, and nature's found a way to just come back and like essentially take back the land for themselves. And I think that is quite phenomenal. The thing I want to segue into a little bit is that your wife as well works for us, and but she works in a very different space. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just share a little bit about what she does?
Yeah, so my wife Dee, she's worked for Creation for around 3-4 years now. So she's a web developer. That's how she started off, and she's kind of segueing into different roles at the minute. But yeah, so she works in a very different capacity to me. But yeah, she came in really not knowing what she wanted to kind of do with her life, but she knew that she really loved to build websites and create systems and quite logical kind of thinking.
Yeah.
So she really wanted to try it, and the great thing was she got the opportunity, So I think she came and volunteered.
Yeah.
For 6 months. I think we'd had kids, so she was kind of just gradually getting back into work. After having our last child, and she was just looking for a way to get back into work, and yeah, she didn't want to go back into what she was doing pre-children. So she really wanted to kind of venture into a new career path, and yeah, which is good, because we're both in our 40s now, and we've both started again as such, and we've both kind of and the positive thing is it's never too late to kind of pursue your dreams or your purpose or the things that you think that you were made for.
Yeah.
And often a key to that is something that you love doing, which doesn't feel like work. So when I'm producing music, or I'm illustrating something, or I'm creating a world, or I'm, it isn't work to me. It's a joy, and that's a key for me, and a key sign of your purpose is something that you don't want to put down, which isn't work. And I think that if you can do that and earn a living from it, I think you've cracked it, haven't it?
Yeah, I mean that was the exciting thing with Dee, because Dee took a risk, to learn, and with us, and obviously the opportunity opened up for her to join a team, and that I love seeing people taking that opportunity and doing what they really want to do in life, and how the circumstances then begin to accommodate. It just seems to naturally happen. And I remember being sat in the cinema in Mayfair, the Mayfair Hotel. Spot the sound guy sat right in the middle of the cinema rather than at the front. And it was, for me, what was most exciting about it was, I've always said I want to win an Oscar. Whether I win it, it's not me winning it, it's the team winning it. And I could see it for the first time how this might happen. Now, hey, dare to hope if it gets an Oscar as the best documentary, amazing. Andy at Film Duo, get it entered. But it's a step on the way too. And it's those small steps, taking those opportunities along the route. So like with Dee's, why I shared it, she took a risk on us, and we took a risk with her, and it worked itself out into now she's got a role and she's in the team. And then yourself, you've done all this study, and it's like, well, where does this go? And we know you're gifted musically as well. And when you joined, I didn't have those soundtracks or the 3D work, but somehow it began to open itself up. And I think sometimes we're always waiting for something to happen before we step into purpose, when in fact what we need to do is make purposeful steps. and then somehow life begins to.
It's true. It's
open
very
up.
true, because when you're living and you're working on purpose,
Yeah.
Because it's natural and you love it, it will most likely be successful.
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference between producing something which you have to produce out of trying to earn a living, and between something that you've crafted or made or produced or built out of love.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what purpose is. It's a love for something that you were created to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah. It's. We were talking about. Funny enough, we were talking about this the other day in terms of when you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're less concerned with what other people are doing.
Yeah. We did talk about that. Yeah,
we talk. You know, like you can be in an environment where everyone's sees one route to the top, so everyone's jostling and trying to justify, well, if I get in that position, then I get it, and then everything's going to be okay. Yeah. So you got this like race to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
When in fact you might not be a mountain climber.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, you might be something completely different.
Yeah.
And it's not get caught up in that race to the top or the race to the bottom, so to speak. It's more about saying, what am I here for? Mm-hmm. What am I on this planet for?
Yeah.
What am I good at that no one else can do? That is naturally me. It's not saying you don't have to put the work in. You put hours in trying to do the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But it's something that I enjoy, something that I love, and I know that I'm good at. Mm-hmm. But I may have not had the platform to do it.
Yeah.
And it's taken that risk to say, you know what, I know what it is, and I've got to double down on it.
Yes.
And then see what happens in the process. And that's what's exciting about, you know, with yourself and with D, is that you've taken those types of risks and the things have actually opened up. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to be competitive. That's the great thing with purpose.
Yeah.
When you know what it is, you don't have to worry about the left or the right or whatever.
That's so true.
You can just focus on you, focus on what you're supposed to do. And you might be an amazing soundtrack writer. Then, you know, we got Ryan on our team, who's an amazing videographer.
Yeah.
And their skills complement. Yeah. It's not like Ryan's going out going, oh, I don't like Ryan because I don't like Nathan because he can write music.
Yeah.
I could do a better job than that, you know, and get really insecure. No, double down on the videography, be the best at that. But the two work together.
It's amazing you say that, because some of the most challenging work environments that I've been in have been because of insecurity.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be that.
Yeah.
Or everybody thinks they should be that position, or they should be doing that. Whereas that's not their purpose. That's not what they were created for, you know? And that's the whole point, isn't it? Is if everybody just focused on what their purpose was, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't create those challenging environments. Yeah,
and I think what's happened for me is going back to when I was talking about on the last podcast about Ollie, telling me, you know, are you a business owner or an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm. Because now I know I'm an entrepreneur, I can get out of the way of other people coming through the ranks of creation.
Yeah.
So it's not capped around me. I'm not meant to be here. I got to leave and give people space. And I'm not saying I'm leaving. I'm around. I'm interested and part of it. But
sometimes you're reluctant to be there.
Yeah. But that's came through realizing that the reluctancy isn't because I don't want to work hard. It's that I'm getting in the way.
Yeah.
You've got the talent and the skills and the abilities to solve those problems. And the more I make it about me and my worth and my value and saying, hey, you do a really great job there, which, you know, we do, or I do, or had done, it's more get out of the way and allow someone else to do that, because...
That's it. But you said that's what an entrepreneur does. They replicate themselves and then leave. You know, so you're doing the right thing.
It's a natural part of it. And I think the other reason why people struggle is their vision isn't big enough.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what Ollie challenged me on, was that he actually pulled out at me and said, your vision isn't big enough. You by saying business owner and looking at creation alone, I was so channeled and focused on that, trying to make this thing do everything, when in fact it was never meant to do everything. It was only meant to be part of a much bigger picture and a much bigger story.
Yeah.
Which is great. So going back to the soundtrack and stuff like, just tell us what you felt when you were sat in that cinema. How did it feel?
So yeah, we hearing what we'd produced, so Dolby surround sound. So it was an amazing experience because he kind of turned up at Mayfair Hotel in the middle of Mayfair in London for this massive premiere. You know, there's every car outside on the double yellows was a Maserati, a Bugatti, you know. And yeah, kind of just sitting in there and then hearing this it was such a buzz. It was surreal. But it actually it's really helped me to dream big now, that actually that we are talented and we are creative, and we produced that in 3 weeks. Imagine what we could do in 6 months if we were given a longer project, you know, and that's what really excites me, is that, you know, we could score a blockbuster, you know. Hopefully a science fiction. I'd love to do that. That's one of my dreams, is to score and concept art a blockbuster movie in a science fiction. I'd love to do that.
So if there's anyone out there that's looking for a soundtrack for sci-fi stuff, come give us a shout. The other crazy thing that happened on the night was it was very sobering at the same time, so it was quite odd. We were in London, weren't we, I think it was 6:30, which is when the premiere was supposed to start, that we found out, unfortunately, the Queen had died.
Yeah.
And
always remember that now, isn't it?
You know, when we go, where were you?
Yeah.
We're at this amazing film premiere. The whole day was built up around it. And then to hear that news. But to be in London at that time, I'm glad we were there. I felt more connected to what had gone on.
Yeah.
You know, just walking Piccadilly Circus, and the big thing there was incredible.
Walking outside of the cinema and just seeing, because all of the bus stop kind of screens had changed, because obviously they're all remote, aren't they? And they're all programmed or whatever. But yeah, she was everywhere. Yeah, she was on all of the bus stops. She was on all the massive screens, and she was absolutely everywhere. Yeah, it was a very bittersweet moment. Very, very sad, very emotional. Yeah. Yeah,
but again, there's some parallels between the showing of, like, there's a situation of a circumstance, but daring you to hope, which is the title of the thing, that actually life does change, life does move on, and be thankful that we've had someone for that long lead and show, for me anyway, show leadership. I mean, character. You know, she set the standard up there, and how are we going to do it? 100%. Yeah. And I'm gonna add this in because it makes me laugh just thinking about it. Was that we got this amazing example of servanthood and leadership. And then we went to a Chinese restaurant after the showing, and it's an experience. Can you remember that?
Yeah.
The service. Yeah. Do you want to just share a little bit about that?
So yeah, we went to, I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, we probably not good to
we
share.
Could probably, when we find out, we'll flash it up at the bottom. And listen, everybody that's been there has had the same experience, because we're all comparing notes. They're known and they're world famous for it, apparently. But
so you go in this kind of Chinese restaurant. It's very kind of ordinary tables. It's very, you know, it's just kind of a budget kind of Chinese restaurant in London, middle of London though, right in Piccadilly. But I think the staff,
Chinatown. Actually.
Oh, Chinatown. Sorry, in the middle of Chinatown. But the staff are purposely rude. So. Yeah, I was just quite taken aback because I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, I think Darrell asked where one of our drinks was. I think it was like a can of Coke or something. And the kind of waiter went, "It's on its way, all right?" Yeah. So it was kind of, whoa, you know. So yeah, it was quite funny though. So they purposely kind of don't give a monkeys.
Yeah, it was just like the plates were just being banged down. Yeah. And you were trying to catch them as they're sliding off the table.
So they're infamous because of that. And people love to go there because you just get treated like garbage. You know.
but you know, it was again, it was creating another memory that we ended up from a conversation that took us all the way to London
within a month,
a film premiere within a month or so. And you know, for me, I believe that's just the start. That's it. That's to close the chapter. Thanks very much. I believe it is the start. And Nathan, I think you, George, and the team have done an exceptional job. I know Ryan was filming there as well, and I think there's a video coming out with film duo and Harry, like a behind the scenes.
Shout out for those guys as well. You know, they're great to work with.
Andy and Jerry, really, really cool.
Absolute pleasure to work with. They're very easy to work with, guys, and I thought we worked together really well.
Yeah,
they were very open to ideas, artistic input. Yeah, couldn't fault fault them. They're brilliant, and Sam as well.
Yeah.
Not precious, very open, and to ideas. So yeah, it was a great experience all round. And we did have different ideas about things as well, but it wasn't conflict. But yeah, it was just a very, very, very positive experience.
Yeah, I'm going to the sort of the gallery showing afterwards as well, before the Chinese, obviously, and just seeing people seeing the shots that come out from the movie.
Yeah.
Was there any particular image of that was taken there that really stood out for you? I know we talked about the penguins on the glacier and stuff from that, and I loved that. There was a few others though that really stood out. Yeah.
I remember pointing one out to you. Was this? It was this absolutely phenomenal shot, because it wasn't just Antarctica that Harry went to. This was kind of documenting his whole journey across the world. So there's a lot of different countries, Africa, and one of the shots in Africa was of a lion who'd just been in a fight, and he was kind of in a cave. It looked like he was in a cave. This is half of the wonder with Harry's shots, is you don't know how he's got the shot, whether it was a telephoto lens, because he's so close to the subject. You're thinking that's dangerous. But yeah, it was this grizzled lion that had just been in a fight and kind of had claw marks on his face, and he battered and he bruised. And yet he's still so regal and dignified. Yeah. Even though he'd been in this fight. And yeah, it just really spoke to me, that image. It kind of wasn't one of the main images on show. It was kind of round the back of one of the kind of plinths that everything was exhibited on, but this was just a fun for me. It really spoke to me, this image, and I thought this guy's been through the mill. He's been through a war.
But yeah, exactly. And I think what was interesting to see, because when everybody was in the gallery, is when everyone's living their purpose, there was all space for them. So you had Sam, who's the videographer and the editor and the director, and then you had yourselves with the soundtrack guys, and then you had Harry, and he's obviously living his purpose out. Yeah. And then you got the gallery team that are living their purpose out, because they love art and these types of phenomenal photographers and stuff. So.
And everything worked together. Everything fitted together. Yeah. Everybody was was in their right place, and the whole thing worked brilliantly.
Yeah, and from Jerry script writing, Andy sort of like producing, everyone's living their purpose. And I think that's the thing, is that when everyone's doing their purpose, there's room for everyone. And what struck me most about the team, because listen, I was hardly involved. I was just maybe the deal maker or whatever, and then the driver.
Into the centre of London. It's no mean feat.
And then getting back late. But what was great about it is that everyone wasn't insecure of one another. Everyone was collaborative. Everyone wanted to see its success. And just at the end, everyone was shaking each other's hands, going, thank you so much. And listen, when you're doing purpose, there's space for everybody, and everyone can win. Yeah. And that's what I felt about it. It was not one person going around, well, I come up with this, or I come up with that. Everyone was like, well, let the movie tell its own story. And I think when people are doing their purpose, essentially, everything tells its own story. Yeah. Everyone has that space, and
100%.
You come up with something phenomenal. So. Nathan, thanks so much for spending some time with us on the sofa.
For having me. Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to talk more and meet some more people over the time. And Nathan's going to be more involved with the podcast. He's going to be, interviewing people with me as well. And we're really looking forward to what's up ahead. We're going to be talking to Film Duo. So we're going to get Jerry and we're going to get Andy in and talk about their side of the things in producing Dare to Hope. And hey, Harry, if you're out there, we'd love to get you on as well. So thank you so much. And we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.